welcome back. As I am getting closer to my due date, I've been looking back on the last 2 labor and delivery experiences I've had. I know I shared my son's birth story on here, so today I thought it would be a good day to share my daughter's birth story. So I had woken up at around 4:45 in the morning, kind of pretty typical. When you're that pregnant, you wake up often to go to the washroom, so I kind of thought that's where it was going. I was like, oh, I'm awake, I probably need to use the washroom. I turned to stand up and I kind of felt a little bit of a trickle, so I hesitated and I was kind of like, and then all of a sudden my water broke and it gushed out just like my son's did. Sim had called his mom just so that I could start obviously getting ready. She was the one that was coming to watch Elias. And then I had to call my father because he was going to help look after our dog because my sister was out of the province. So we had told him, hey, we're gonna be on our way to the hospital. We're gonna swing by, get you a key, and then we're gonna go. Sim's mom had shown up. We're getting ready to go. And she had kind of asked me how I was doing. I was like, well, I'm fine. Like, I'm a little bit crampy, whatever, not a big deal. She was kind of wondering, like, are those the start of contractions? Because with my son, I never had the natural contractions. So this was a little bit of a different experience for me. So she was kind of like, keep an eye on those cramps because it could be the start of something. We left our house and headed to my dad's at about 5:20. By the time that we got to my dad's house, which it's like literally like a 5-minute drive from our house, by the time we got there, I was like, okay, these are definitely contractions because they're getting stronger and just, you can tell. As we were on our way to the hospital, I started to time the contractions just because I was pretty sure they were gonna ask me about it. And they were probably about 5 minutes apart pretty quickly. So I knew, like, I mean, your water breaks, you're supposed to go in anyways, but with the contractions being 5 minutes apart, I was like, okay, definitely a good sign. Things are happening. Glad that we're on our way. We checked in at the hospital and we got put into one of their triage rooms or outpatient rooms. That's usually where they start you off and then they check to make sure that it was your water that broke. So keep in mind that we left for like at 5:20. We probably were in this outpatient triage room by 6 o'clock. I'm being generous. We were probably there earlier, but probably by 6 o'clock. By 8 o'clock in the morning, I had seen my OB. She had confirmed that it was my water that broke. She told me that I was about 3 or 4 centimeters dilated. And she actually told me, so I'm at the hospital, I'm having contractions. At this point, my contractions were like 3 minutes apart because I was timing them. She had tried to time one and she totally missed the one that was in the middle. Like, she had started one timer and then stopped it. And then I had another contraction, but she didn't time that one. And then I had another one and she timed that one. So she's like, oh, they're like not even 5 minutes apart. They were definitely 3 minutes apart because I was also timing them. But anyways, it's fine. So she said, you were 3 to 4 centimeters dilated. She said, you could probably go home if you want to. Not a freaking chance, because with my son, I went home for 24 hours, came back, and it still took them forever to get me into a room to the point that I was having an infection because my water was broken for too long. So I said, no, we're gonna stay. Like, that's my decision. So I was getting increasingly more uncomfortable. And then shortly after talking to my doctor, or when we were talking to her shortly after, we were actually told that we can't even get into a room right now because they filled all of their labor and delivery beds the night before, which is like the same thing that happened with my son when he was born. They were like, well, we don't have any rooms, we have to wait. And so with my daughter, I was a little bit more concerned because I'm like, I'm having these contractions, they suck, and you're telling me I can't get into a room? Oh. The nurse that worked with us, though, in the triage room, she was super great. She brought us anything that we needed. I think she could tell that I was in a lot of pain. She did let us know that she would do everything that she could to help keep us comfortable until we were able to get into a room. At the point that we were at, she said, honestly, it's probably gonna be, you have to wait it out until we can just get you into a room, give you your epidural, and pretty much have a baby. So when the doctor and nurse left, me and Sim had decided that it was probably a good idea for me to try and get into the bathtub just to see if it would help ease any of the contractions because we didn't know how long it was going to be. So I got into the bath, didn't really help much at all. I do remember the contractions they were getting, like, they were pretty bad. It got to the point that I was taking my keys and digging it into my leg to try and relieve some of the pain from my stomach, my uterus, my back, and try and just direct it into my legs. So I sat in the bath for a little bit, and then the nurse had come in to do the IV. So we got that done at like 9:30. She hooked me up to the IV, which was really promising, but it meant nothing. Sometime after the IV, the nurse had come back in and she said that she would do another cervix check. And because all of their labor and delivery rooms are full, they kind of have a rule at the hospital that they're not pushing for somebody to get into a room unless they're 6 centimeters dilated or more, which is kind of like, that would give time for any kind of pain medication or management and pushing, right? Because things can progress so fast after like 6 or 7 centimeters dilated, like they can just fly. And then the nurse had told me, she's like, if you're not at 6 centimeters yet, we can make you be at 6 centimeters and get you into a room. And I was like, just do anything you can because I'm in so much pain. Luckily for me, I was at 6 centimeters dilated already, and I could tell. With the contractions, I don't think anybody has ever told me that you can feel yourself dilating. Like you can feel it. I could feel it. I just was not prepared for that. With the contractions that I was having, it was really hard because I would have a couple of really, really, really bad ones where it's like I could barely move or breathe or speak. And then I would have one that like, oh, it wasn't so bad. I could breathe through it. And so every single time I would feel a contraction start, I was just praying that it would just be one of the easier ones to breathe through. I did kind of feel bad for the nurse. So even after we checked, I was at 6 centimeters dilated. So she left to go see what she could do for us. She was so nice. I don't even remember her name, but she tried everything that she could for us. So she was probably communicating with doctors and staff. She was communicating with the anesthesiologist because she knew I wanted the epidural. So she's like, hey, as soon as we get this girl into a room, she's gonna need this epidural. And we didn't hear from her for so long. And I feel kind of bad because I kept sending Sim out to get updates or try and get updates. And it was just like, we're working on it. We're trying to get people out of the hospital if they're allowed to leave. Finally, the nurse came back with Sim one of the times, and I'm pretty sure it was to save him from getting just ripped a new one by me. She came in and she was like, I need to be up front. And I was like, oh no. And she's like, there are still no rooms open. We need to be prepared for the possibility of you getting moved to one of our back triage rooms and just having a baby. That also means no epidural because you're not in the labor and delivery room. It also means that we found out later, no laughing gas for pain management. It was just gonna be au natural in a back room because there were no labor and delivery rooms. And I was kind of terrified because I was like, I'm already in so much pain. I didn't know if I could do it. I did admire that she came and talked to me about it because it would help me mentally kind of prepare myself and also Sim, because if Sim would have come talk to me about that, I probably would have been just ripping mad. But it wasn't him, it was the nurse. So I had to try and kind of mentally prepare myself. This could happen. Let's go, because I mean, what else do you do? And at this point, it had been, I think, a couple of hours since we had seen her. And I could tell, and I was telling Sim that I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close to 10 centimeters already. I know because I can feel it happening. And then not too long after that, the nurse kind of ran into the room and said, there's a room opening up so we can get you in. So she did say that she had talked to the anesthesiologist, but they were actually currently in the OR. So that meant that there was still quite a good chance of not having an epidural, but she was getting laughing gas set up and ready to go. So that way when we get into the labor and delivery room, there is some form of pain management. It did take about another hour before the people had finally left and that they got the room cleaned up. And I'm still 99.8% sure that I was at 10 centimeters dilated before we even got to leave our room to go to the labor and delivery room. But anyways, they put me in a wheelchair. We wheeled ourselves down to the room. And then they started getting set up on the laughing gas, and the nurses were kind of trying to get it figured out. They were looking at the laughing gas stuff. They were going to set it up, going to figure it out. And in walks the anesthesiologist like a gift from God himself. And I was so thankful. Oh my goodness. I was just like, I'm pretty positive that the nurse had refused to check me again, like after the 6 centimeters until I got my epidural, unless obviously I was like, I need to push. That's a little bit different. But I think she waited for so long because I think if you're too far along, they're not going to actually give you any medication. So I'm pretty sure she waited for a reason. It took him a second to get set up, but everything was done first try. My first epidural with my son was great. This epidural with my daughter was great. It was pretty quick, pretty easy. And then it was just a matter of waiting until it could kick in. This one did work differently than the one with my son. I'm not really sure why. So with my son, I was totally numb from like the ribs down. Couldn't feel a thing, couldn't feel contractions, nothing. With this one, when I got it, I wasn't in pain, but I could feel the pressure and I could feel the tightening. It was kind of nice knowing like when the contractions were happening, but also not having any pain. Because I was now in a labor and delivery room, we got assigned a different nurse. So she right away gave me a peanut ball, put me in their whatever magic position, and it didn't take long at all before she had come back in and she's like, okay, well, we'll check you. We'll see how things are going. Yep, 100%, 10 centimeters dilated. We're ready to go. Gracie was still sitting pretty high up. So she said we'd probably have to do some practice pushes just to get her into position, which I don't know why they call them practice pushes. It's still pushing like normal, but it's just so that baby gets down into position and then we're ready for the actual delivery itself. So in our room for when Gracie was born, there was a doctor and then there was like a resident and then there were 2 nurses in the room. This one seemed a lot less intense than Eli's birth because when Eli was born, it was later at night, like 8 o'clock or something after 8. So it was really dark, so the lights were super bright. It was kind of like one of those TV show ORs where everything's just bright white. Whereas with Gracie, she was born like early afternoon, so it was sunshine and it didn't feel as intense. It just felt pretty casual, pretty like, I don't know. It was kind of nice actually. After a couple of the practice pushes to get Gracie down into position, doctor was like, hey, let's get ready. We're gonna have a baby. I was a little bit more hesitant with the practice pushes this time around because part of my labor process from the days leading up to the birth, I was having stomach issues and I could, this time, because I could actually feel pressure and stuff going on, I could tell what was happening down there and I was like, I'm so embarrassed. Like, I'm so sorry. Nurses and doctors don't care. It doesn't matter. Gracie's actual delivery was, I think, it only took about 2 contractions and maybe 5 minutes of pushing to get her out. 1:46 p.m., Gracie was born pretty quickly. That's pretty much it. Her story, like other than all of the pain that I was feeling at the time, her actual birth story was not traumatic. It was a positive story. The nurses at the hospital were fantastic. She was healthy. The only negative side is because she came out so stinking fast, she still had quite a bit of fluid in her lungs, so she would kind of be gagging and choking on it throughout the night. So we'd have to take like a bulb syringe and like just suck it all out, which was really scary because it's scary as a parent. You want your baby to be okay. But otherwise, she did good. She nursed good. We actually got to go home the next day. Another positive birth story for the books. Hopefully this next one will also be a very positive story. I'm really terrified to go in again because this one is also due in August. Gracie was born in August, and I'm so terrified that I'm going to go in for the 3rd time and that they're going to tell me that they have no rooms available. Hopefully this is a good story to encourage some of you if you guys are interested in this, or if you're thinking about other people's experiences, if you're expecting your 1st or 2nd or 3rd kid. I always hear about the really scary experiences, but I think it's really, really good to hear some of the really positive experiences as well. Thank you guys for listening to my story time, and pray for me as my due date gets closer, and we will see you guys next time.